Start streaming. Let's see if this works. Says I'm live. Not sure if anyone's here. I don't see anything in the comments yet. Can you guys hear me? Am I live? I assume I am. Okay, yeah, it's working. Perfect. Let's get it going. Just wait a second till some people start showing up in the stream. Appreciate you guys that are here right away. That's awesome. First time I tried to schedule something, like I scheduled it, I think earlier this morning, and hopefully that was enough notice for you guys. Let me know if that's okay. I feel like a couple hours within the day is pretty good. I'm going to try different streaming times, so let me know what time, maybe in the chat, what time you guys think is a good time to stream. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so this is 5 p.m., kind of the middle of the afternoon, which is convenient for me, and hopefully the majority of you guys can make it out to this time. But again, thank you so much, guys, for showing up to this kind of thing. I enjoy doing the live stream thing, answering your questions in real time. I don't know, I find it very engaging. You guys obviously ask a lot of questions on my channel, so this is my way to, I guess, try to answer as many as I can. And I just want to say thank you for your recent support on the channel, guys. A lot of time, effort, and energy goes into this, so when the feedback and the positivity is all there when the new content goes up, I really do appreciate that. So thank you so much for your recent and hopefully continued support. Nonetheless, let's start off. I'm just going to start pulling questions from the chat, and we'll kind of go from there. If you guys do want to use the super chat feature, just make sure that if you are going to make a donation, ask a question along with your donation as well, and I will answer that pretty much as soon as I can in real time on the stream. So you get your question answered, in real time, live 100%. Everyone sees it. You get to see the answer as well. So here we go. I'm just going to start pulling questions from the chat. So here's a good one by Waleed Binder, or I assume you say Binder. He says Hypervenom or Mercurial. Both lines are very, very good right now. Obviously, with the Mercurials, if you're talking high-end boots, you have the Superfly and you have the Vapor. Both excellent options. I personally would prefer to wear the Superfly just because I like the softer, slightly more padded upper that it has. And if that's you, maybe that's the better option as well. If you want something super thin, more of a barefoot feel, a little bit lighter than the Superfly, maybe the Vapor 11 is the better option. But for me, I do like the Hypervenom Phantom 3, more specifically the low-cut variation. I find them really comfortable. I like the upper in that it's not overly padded, but it does have somewhat of a padded sensation to it. Very natural on your feet. Not quite as aggressive as a stud pattern, but I just like the way that shoe fits, the way that shoe feels. For me personally, I just prefer the Phantom over, be it the Superfly or the Vapor. But again, they're all excellent options. It just depends on what type of feel that you're looking for. Fat Biker 111, he asks, how old are you? I'm 24 years old. I get that a lot. Some people think I'm a lot older. Some people think I'm a lot younger. But I'm 24. Pretty straightforward answer there. Not a lot to expand on there. All right. Whoa. Gustavo Muscas asks, why haven't you done more Pure Agility reviews? No specific reason, honestly. I do my best to bring in as many things as I can. It's just, I can't bring in everything, unfortunately. So I try to see what people are asking for in the comments and messages and stuff like that and bring stuff in based on popular demand to a certain extent. So Pure Agility is not super high in demand, and given that Messi himself isn't really wearing the Pure Agility, he's wearing the 16.1, I've been bringing in more Messi 16.1s, but I'll do my best to bring in the Pure Agility in pretty much all the colorways. Again, I just can't fit everything in. All right, Isaac Maldonado, thanks for the $2 donation, bud. He asks, can you describe the best goal you've ever scored? I'm not really sure what the best goal I ever scored was. I remember when I was like 15, 16 years old, I want to say it was a tournament. I don't remember 100% exactly what the situation was, but I know it was a game that we had to win. And I ended up shooting the ball from basically half. And it was something that I wasn't planning on doing it. I kind of just got the ball and instinctively just took a shot, and I connected really, really well. and ended up going basically right in the 90 of the net. It was very unexpected. I honestly didn't even think it was going to go in, or didn't expect too much of it, but it ended up going in, and it was a pretty good goal. It was surprising on my part. Everybody was surprised. And I think that's probably the best goal that I remember scoring, just in terms of it being, I guess, really unique. I've never scored another goal from that kind of distance before. So basically a shot from right over the halfway line, right around there. So pretty long distance. But good question. Again, thank you for your donation, Isaac. Another $2 donation from Eric Espinoza. Thank you very much for that donation. He says, what FG sole plate has the most grip on the ball? This is something that a lot of people do ask, because if you do use the bottom of your foot a lot, you'll find that some stud patterns are a little bit slipperier than others. So there's two factors in terms of how it's going to grip the ball itself, and that is the actual stud pattern itself, the amount of coverage you have underfoot, the shape of the stud. So I guess three things now that I'm thinking about it. The shape of the studs, as well as the actual material of the studs. If the studs themselves are more of a harder plastic material, it's going to have a more slick feel on the ball. And I guess for the ball actually itself does make a little bit of a difference as well. I find that certain stud patterns, if they have longer, kind of bigger faces to the tip of the stud, so for example, a Mercurial Vapor, the face of that chevron stud, is going to have more surface area than something like an Adidas A17.1, where it's just a small little circle. So for that reason, something like a Mercurial is going to have more underfoot grip against the ball with the studs themselves. I would say that what comes to mind is having a lot of surface area coverage and kind of good material that's grippy on the ball is maybe something like a Mizuno Wave Ignitus 4 that has a stud pattern that covers a lot of surface area underneath. So it's going to have a lot of feel for the ball and grip on the ball when you are kind of using the bottom of your studs. That's the one that comes to mind. The Tiempos are not that bad based on my experience. The Copas are not that bad. I guess the more simple, kind of more traditional style stud patterns with bigger studs, that's what's generally going to have the most grip on the ball in terms of the studs under your feet. So again, look for a bigger face to the shape of the stud tip, and that's what you're going to get the most grip on the ball with. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, thank you for the $2 donation. Keep going from the chat here. Around the ankle. Okay, here's a question from David Churnet. I think that's how you say it. Have you experienced a lot of extra space in the Nike Mercurial Vapor 11 around the ankle area? A lot of my teammates and I have this problem. Do you know what we can do about the problem? So what he's referring to is when you put on a pair of Vapor 11s, and you guys will see it a little bit in my videos, it's not too bad on me personally, is that right around the ankle, towards the front where the tongue ends and it's just kind of the sides of the shoe, it'll flare out a little bit. And this is the case not just with the Vapor, but with a lot of tight-fitting, thin synthetic shoes. And the reasoning for that is just because it depends on how the shoe matches your specific foot. I'm slightly flat-footed, so I find that especially on the medial side, it'll flare out a little bit more just based on how my foot is putting pressure on the upper itself, and that's what's going to cause it to flare out. It can be really, really bad if the shoe doesn't fit you all that well, and they're a little bit too big, which is a common thing with a lot of high-end shoes. So if your shoes aren't too big and it's still flaring out, it's just the way that they fit you. It's not necessarily an abnormal thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that the shoe isn't specifically matching the shape of your foot, which is perfectly normal. Can you fix it? Not really. You can try tying them as tight as you can at the top there, the very last lace holes, but if that doesn't change anything, there's really nothing you can do about it. It's kind of just a characteristic of how that shoe fits you specifically. So not something you can necessarily fix, but not something that I would say is a major issue in regards to fit. It's a fairly common, fairly normal thing. So hopefully that answers your question. Alex Turley, he asks an NBA question. He says Westbrook or Harden for MVP. I watch a fair bit of NBA basketball. I'd say Westbrook. I see why people argue for Harden, but Westbrook, I think what he did is pretty unbelievable. So that would be my answer to that. Tristan Badillo, he asks Nike Premier or Tiempo 5. I assume he means Tiempo Legend 5. I would still go for the Legend 5s. I think they're excellent shoes. Still very, very good. And that's not to take away from the Nike Premier. I just like the slightly more kind of padded, I don't want to say bulkier, but more substantial feel of the Legend 5. It comes across as a more solid shoe to me than that of the Nike Premier. So that would be my pick between those two shoes. Let's see here. Okay, here's one from Stegen Bach. He has Copa Mundial or Copa 17.1. He just hit 17.1, but I assume he means Copa 17.1. If I was picking a shoe to wear right now, tough choice. I'm a big fan of the regular Copa Mundial. I know it's very old school and not something that a lot of people like to wear or even like the look of anymore. But there's things about the regular Copa 17.1, not to say that's a bad shoe, but if you're comparing it to the Copa, just on the basis that they're both leather boots, the quality of the Copa Mundial is so much better than that of the Copa 17.1 that just based on that alone, the leather quality itself, I would probably pick the Copa Mundial over the Copa 17.1, but they're both very good options. The Copa 17.1 is going to be obviously a lot lighter, less bulky on feet. It's going to have a tighter, kind of more modern fit profile, and a more aggressive stud pattern as well. But the Copa Mundial, it's old school, but it's still very wearable by today's standards, and I think it would be my personal preference between those two boots. So I'll keep going here in the chat. Here's a question by Mr. Odell OG Gamer. Or Odell-OG? I don't know. You got the idea. Did you play for an academy when you were younger? No. There's not really... I mean, I live in Canada. I lived in an area that was, I guess, not a big soccer area. If you live in like a big city like Toronto or maybe even Vancouver, I assume there's more academies type stuff, but really where I live, that was not really a thing. So not really any academies here. That's more of a European thing where you have big professional clubs that are running this kind of thing. That was not a thing where I live. Still isn't really a thing. So no, didn't play for an academy or in an academy or never been to an academy. So hopefully that answers that one. Here's a question from Lyle Football. Does the A17.1 Prime Knit heel slippage get less over time? If you're experiencing heel slippage in that shoe, it's likely that they don't fit you properly. It's possible they're too big. I really didn't have any issues with heel slippage. So I would say maybe check your sizing. Is it possible they're too big? If they are, that's probably why your heel is slipping. If that's not the situation, then the shoe just doesn't match your foot properly. And there's really not much you can do about that. You could try something like Nike Grip socks or True Socks maybe. That could help you out. But for the most part, if your heel is slipping from the get-go, it's likely that the shoes just don't fit you properly because that's not really too common a thing with high-end boots. Here and there it is, but not really. Here's a question from Aaron Biala. He asks, do you play video games? Here and there. I played a lot more when I was, I guess, early days of high school and grade school, and I was like between 12 and probably 16 years old. I played a lot of video games. Now, not so much. I can't even remember the last video game that I played. So I like to play video games, but nowadays I just don't really have as much time to do that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll play, but it's not something that I do regularly or kind of take time out to do that. So hopefully that answers that one. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, here's a question from Jonah is Fun FIFA. He said, what happened to Adidas My Coach? That went away because it wasn't popular, quite frankly. The My Coach, for those that don't know, it was a little kind of cutout in the shoe itself at the bottom. It would go under your foot, and you'd slot this little chip. It would only go in the left boot, and you put it in there, and you could attach it to your phone, or it would track whatever your stats were, and then you'd sync it back to your phone and see what your stats were over that particular session. It'd give you very basic information like distance, average speed, highest jump, things like that. But based on what I tested with it, it wasn't the most accurate thing in the world. I felt like it was very, very generous in terms of even just tracking distance. I remember I wore them in a game one time, and it said I ran like 14 kilometers, which, I mean, that's a lot, and I really didn't feel like I ran that much at all, maybe half of that, but again, I don't think it was the most accurate thing in the world, and it wasn't something that people really picked up on all that much, so Adidas pretty much scrapped it. Again, cool idea, but the execution and I guess necessity of something like that isn't really what people were going for. And it's a bit of a shame because I think a lot of people, that's a cool idea in the sense that it could legitimately give you performance statistics that actually matter. But unfortunately, it's gotten to a point, and you could probably fault the marketing from a lot of these big companies for this, is that people would rather just buy new shoes and think that that's going to make them perform better rather than actually see their statistics from actual playing sessions and try to improve upon that and see what they're actually doing. So it could have been a very cool idea. I think it is still a cool idea. Wasn't the most accurate based on my experience, but again, popularity is the main reason why they stopped doing it. People just weren't using it. People weren't buying it. So you can't blame them for discontinuing that particular thing. So thanks for that question. Pretty good question, I think. Definitely interesting, let's say. So Juan Garcia, $2 donation. Thank you very much for that. He says, do you think Barcelona can make a comeback on Juve? They lost the first game 3-0, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just a couple days ago. I mean, they did it against PSG, no? It's possible. I think Juve is one of those teams that's going to just sit back and defend in the second game. That's a lot of Italian teams for the most part. So it'll be very, very tough. But I guess if they can score early and get Juve on their heels, it's definitely a possibility. They certainly have the goal-scoring potential. So, yeah, I think it's possible. Is it unlikely? Yeah, maybe, but definitely possible. And I guess given the players that they have, a fairly strong possibility. So not even just a chance. I think there's a pretty strong chance they could do it, or at least tie it up, send it into overtime or extra time. I'm not sure how it works. I think they'd have to play a 30-minute overtime, right? I think that's how it works. But yeah, definitely possible. Okay, here's a question from Camille Mraz, or Camille Raz. I'm not sure how you say that. Are you going to make a skills video? Yes, there's going to be more videos of me playing. What I'm planning to do is obviously do more playtest videos. The problem has been that it's winter time. It's now the spring and the weather is getting a lot warmer. Unfortunately, a lot of the fields are going to be closed for the next month and a half. So I'll try to get on some decent fields. They'll be really, really soft right now. But the problem is going to be getting access to a field. But once I do have regular access to a soccer field to record on, there's going to be playtest videos. I plan on doing a lot of tutorial videos. Some of my most popular channels on my some of my most popular videos on my channel, are actually some tutorial videos. And I know a lot of you guys have been asking for that kind of thing. So I am going to be doing some tutorial videos on a bunch of different things. So I guess if you have any suggestions for that, let me know in the comment section of my videos. And like I said, once the weather gets a little bit more stable and I have a field to regularly record on, that is content that you'll be seeing a lot more of on the channel. So stay tuned for that. Gonna keep going. Aiden Adcock says, best boots for center backs. Boots by position, not really a thing, guys. It's more of a marketing thing. Your position has next to nothing to do with what shoes you should wear. Same thing goes for your playing style. You got to pick your shoes based on what type of fit and feel that you like. If you like thin shoes and you're a defender, that's technically not how the marketing would suggest a shoe for you to wear. But if you like Vapors and you're a center back, wear Vapors. If you like Copas and you're a striker, wear Copas. It absolutely does not mean anything. You got to pick your shoes based on fit and feel, not based on marketing. So just keep that in mind. Something I've talked about many times before on my channel. Let's see. Holden Ferrero asks, how can I donate? I have no idea how that works. I don't know. No answer to that one. Here's a question from Carlos Herrera. He asks, are True Socks worth it? I think they're worth it if you feel like your shoes fit you well, but there's certain little things about them that don't feel exactly right in regards to stability and just slippage on the inside of the shoe. If you feel like your shoes are the right size, but you're still getting that little bit of slippage on the inside, something like True Socks or Nike Grip Socks can legitimately make that slight difference that will make your shoes feel a lot better. But if you're one of those people that feels like your shoes fit you okay and you don't really have any issues with slippage, then true socks aren't entirely necessary. It's really one of those things that you kind of have to decide for yourself. I personally don't wear them anymore, but that's because I get my shoes to fit pretty much perfect for the most part. So I just don't really need them. But again, it just depends on what you want to do. Here's a question from... it just flew away. Here's Rich Handsome Guy. Good username. Do you think Under Armour cleats are underrated? I think, yeah, to a certain extent they are. But I've talked about this before. Under Armour is one of those brands that they have some shoes that are absolutely fantastic, and then other ones that end up going up or releasing that are kind of questionable. So if you look at the Clutch Fit line, I think Clutch Fit 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the most recent one and by far the best one, those are excellent. The other lines, though, they haven't been as great. The Spotlight right now, I think it's a little bit questionable. So, yeah, as a brand, I think Under Armour's had some huge home runs, but they've definitely had some shoes that were, like I said, very questionable as well. So, as a whole, underrated, but not everything they've put out has been fantastic, let's say. So, yeah, I think Under Armour is definitely one of those brands that you should consider, especially the Clutch Fit line, if you're into that style of shoe. Deadly Duck, $1 donation. Thank you very much for that. He didn't ask a question, though, so there's no comment there. But thank you for the $1 donation. Deadly Duck. Deadly_Duck. Cool name. Here's a question from RebelTuber. Is Puma making a comeback? Definitely a possibility. It's hard to gain market share with Adidas and Nike being as popular as they are. And Adidas, I would say, is a very distant third place. I don't think there's too many people that are going to buy Puma every single time. And again, they're almost like Under Armour to a certain extent in that they've had some questionable releases over the years. Not everything is fantastic. They really took a big chance on the whole EvoSpeed SL concept with the 10-game warning label. And I think that hurt them more than helped them, even though it's something that I think was a really cool concept. And I like that they did that. But it has hurt them as a brand in that everybody seems to think that all the Evo Speeds are going to break after 10 games, and perhaps even the entire entire brand and all the shoes they make aren't very durable either. They have great products right now with the Evo Power Vigor 1. I think that's an excellent boot. The current Evo Speeds, I don't prefer them over something like the Mercurial Vapor or Superfly, but they're pretty solid. The Evo Touch Pro, at least, is a very interesting shoe as well. I think they have potential to gain more market share, but do I ever think they're going to be a first or second tier brand in terms of popularity? No, they'll always be pretty much third place at best, in my opinion. They'd have to have quite a popular shoe and some pretty big endorsement deals to gain any kind of more significant market share, let's say. Unfortunately, it's not just the quality of the product anymore, it's how well you can market your brand and what players are under your brand. So a Ronaldo and a Messi, those are obviously big deals. Neymar, big deal. Puma, do they have anybody quite like that? Not really. So, again, I think they'll stay a distant third. Deadly Duck, another $2 donation. Thank you very much. He said, what teams do you support? I answered this in previous live stream videos that are uploaded on my channel, so if you haven't seen those, I definitely recommend checking them out. I think they're pretty good. But he asked, what team do you support? My personal favorite team, or I guess if I am supporting one team in particular, it would be Arsenal. I've said this before, I'm not really a diehard of any team or club specifically, but growing up, I was a big fan of Thierry Henry, who obviously is kind of an Arsenal legend, and that's kind of the main reason why I ended up being a big Arsenal fan. Or I am an Arsenal fan, I'm not saying I'm a big Arsenal fan, but that would be my personal favorite club. Beyond that, I just enjoy watching the game. If Barca's on, if Real Madrid's playing, if United's playing, Chelsea, any of the big clubs, I'm happy to watch them. I just enjoy watching the game in general, so I'm not too picky in that regard. But if I have a favorite team, it would be Arsenal. Let's see here. Michael Kennedy, he asked Wenger, in or out? Obviously, there's controversy with Arsene Wenger right now, Arsenal's coach. Is he going to stick around? I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have too much of an opinion on that. I'm not sure how big the coaching issue is with Arsenal. I think people are obviously very disappointed with them not winning the league for so long and just not having a ton of success either in the Champions League or to win the league, which is what a lot of people want to see. I'd say the league more than anything. So, I don't know. You've given the guy a lot of time. He's been there for a very, very long time. He's obviously a good coach. I don't think he would be there that long if he wasn't a decent coach. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have a strong opinion either or. Would I like to see somebody new in there? Sure, but it's got to be somebody good. I heard rumors of Diego Simeone, who's, I believe, the Atletico Madrid coach. And I really like the way they play. They're a tough team to beat. So if Arsenal could get a coach like that, obviously it would change. He would have to kind of change the style of play that Arsenal has right now quite a bit. And I'm not sure that they have the players for that. But definitely an intriguing possibility as a head coach. And I'd be curious to see it. I mean, he's had his time there. I would think he's going to retire before they fire him or something like that. So we'll see. But again, coaching changes, they can be a big deal sometimes. So Louis V522, $2 donation. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. He says the best shoes so far, 2016 and 2017. For this year, I think the best releases that we've had so far, obviously the Phantom 3, very, very good. That was a new release this year. And then the Puma Evo Power Vigor 1, that was another release for 2017. I think those are both excellent boots. A lot of people want to compare them to each other, which I kind of understand why, but at the same time, they're very different shoes. I think right now my favorite new release that we've had in 2017 has been the Phantom 3 Low. I just really, really like what that shoe has on offer. But again, the Evo Power Vigor 1, those are excellent. And that's kind of my opinion as far as new releases. I guess the Under Armour Clutch Fit 3.0 is another one of those shoes that I really, really like. So there's been some good releases this year, and I'm sure there will be a lot more very, very soon. Keep answering. Thanks for the donation, by the way. Going to keep answering questions here. Oh, I saw a good one, and then I lost it. Oh, here we go. Ronan Cameron, he asked, are you sponsored? No, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Fully independent. Everything is my opinion, just as I say it. I do the one-take reviews. I don't script my videos. Everything's kind of off the top. I do my research, and I'd like to think that I know what I'm talking about. So everything is a genuine opinion, no sponsorship whatsoever. So keep that in mind when you watch my videos. I guess with a lot of reviews on YouTube, there is a question of whether or not the opinion is genuine. And when you're talking about a review, there's a lot of places doing reviews that are actually stores. So if you're a store carrying a product, the problem with doing a review is you have that product to sell. So you're obviously not going to say anything bad about said product that you actually have to sell. So again, I'm not a store. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm simply getting the products and giving you my opinions on them, which is why you see reviews that are very positive and you see reviews that are very, very negative. So that's just how it goes. Again, no sponsorship. Everything's just straight up opinion. Here's a good question. Junior Galvin asks, how did you get into collecting cleats? Honestly, I wasn't really a collector. I still don't really consider myself to be a collector. It's something that obviously turned into somewhat of a collection given on how many I was bringing in to do reviews on and stuff like that. But initially when I started this, I was not collecting anything at all. It's just not something I was ever really interested in doing. If I got a new pair of shoes, be it an older model or a newer model, I was going to wear them. So I don't necessarily have that urge anymore just because I have so many now. But again, I didn't get in this for the collection aspect of it. I got in it because I really like to try the latest and greatest products, share my opinions on them, see what they feel like, see what the differences are. That's the main reason why I started this, not necessarily as a collection. But now that I have an opportunity to collect stuff, I do it to a certain extent. So I guess hopefully that answers your question. Here's a question from Byron Gronwald. He has Boost or Nike Air Tech. Nike Air is something that I think is, if you're talking about a running shoe, I think Boost is by far way better. In terms of other implementations of, I guess, Nike Air and Boost technology, I've worn some basketball shoes with Nike Air, or mostly Zoom Air. I would say Air Max I'm not quite as crazy about. But Zoom Air I've been really impressed with in certain training and basketball models. So that's very, very good. But I think as a whole, Boost is just a very impressive technology for performance footwear, be it trainers, runners, basketball shoes. They've done a very good job in terms of giving all of their Boost shoes a pretty unique and pretty high performance feel in regards to the springiness that that material has. So I would say as a whole, Boost foam, but I definitely am a big fan of a lot of Air Max sneakers for casual wear. But in terms of performance footwear, I think Boost is probably a little bit further along, or at least my preference of the two, if you want something really heavily cushioned. So hopefully that answers that one. The Milkman, good name. Yes, are you from Vaughan? No, I don't live in the Toronto area at all. Jerry.A342 asks, what kind of music do you listen to? Honestly, guys, I'm not a big music person. I never really have been. I'm just not somebody who's going to sit there and listen to music. I always am doing something, and I try to have something on in the background, but it's likely going to be some kind of informational thing rather than listening to music. So, again, I'll listen to anything. If the radio's on, I'll listen to what's on the radio, and that's kind of my taste in music. I'm not actively seeking out any specific music, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. So that may sound like a boring answer, but that's the truth. Here we go. Charlotte asks, cat or dog? I mean, I'm pretty partial towards both. I like cats and dogs. I don't have a dog at the moment. I did. I have 2 cats right now, so I guess cats in terms of what I have, but I like dogs just as much. So big fan of animals in general. Let's see. Nike. A lot of guys are asking Nike or Adidas. I answered that, I believe, in my last Q&A video. So if you want to go and check that out, again, I answered that question in a good amount of detail, I would say. Let's see. Okay, here's a good question. Anton Staub asks, how do you prep for a match? I don't have a routine, I'll say that much. I know a lot of people that have to do the same thing, and they really want to prepare the same way every single time. And I guess if you're a professional player, let's say, and it's your job, you're going to have more of a steady routine. I just don't really have that. For me, I'm not the greatest warm-up person in that I don't feel the need to do a lot of warm-up, a lot of stretching, a lot of anything. I kind of just like to get the ball, juggle around a little bit, get a good feel for the ball. I think that's my big thing. Obviously, I want to warm up a little bit just in terms of running and stuff like that. But for me, it's getting a feel for the ball, getting a feel for the surface, because sometimes the surface can be really soft, really hard, something like that. So I want to make sure that I have a good idea of what my limits are in regards to grip when pushing off and stuff like that. And I want to take a couple shots. I like to kind of get a feel for the ball, get used to doing kind of certain motions that obviously you know how to do, but just doing them a couple times in the warm-up definitely can help for the game. So that would be kind of my big thing. Just get a good feel for the ball, get a good feel for the environment, and from there I'm pretty much good to go. So again, fairly basic warm-up and I guess pre-game prep. But again, I don't really do anything too special. Try to keep things pretty simple. Not much of a routine either. Whoa, it's flying here. 1 second, guys. A17.1. Here's a good question that I get asked a lot, and I genuinely don't have a good answer to it. Where did it go? Here it is. Juan Reyes asks, favorite cleat of all time. So obviously, given the amount of shoes that I have, everybody wants to know my all-time favorite. And I don't really have an all-time favorite. Some shoes that come to mind as kind of older models that I really like. I was a big fan of the T90 Laser 2s. I really like the Predator Manias. I really like the Predator Pulses. The Predator Instinct comes to mind as a shoe that I really like. I was a big fan of the Legend 5. I like the Legend 6. I was a big fan of the Nike CTR 360 Maestri 1 Elites. I thought those were very, very good. There's a lot of shoes that I really, really like. The Under Armour Blur Carbon 3 in kangaroo leather. Those are excellent shoes. So again, I probably have a list of 10 to 15 shoes that I'd be happy to wear, no matter whether they're new or old. But to pick an all-time favorite as like the one shoe that I would wear if I could pick absolutely anything from any time period, I don't really have an all-time favorite. But again, lots and lots of shoes that I think are excellent, would be happy to wear, but not one in particular that I would pick over every single other one. Your local flea market farmer, what is your favorite kangaroo leather cleat? Right now, it would be the Tiempo Legend 6. But there's lots of really solid options out there. I like the Legend 6 based on the fact that the quality of the leather is good. It has a much tighter, kind of more responsive feel than you would expect from that style of shoe. The one-piece upper, which I don't mind that. I know a lot of people don't like it. And again, it's just a shoe that fits me quite well. I find them really, really comfortable. It's a good blend of classic feel, leather softness, and general modern responsiveness. And just the way that it fits your foot, I think, is something that I just really, really like. So in terms of leather shoes, that would be my personal favorite, and it is my personal favorite shoe overall at the moment as well, from current models at least. Ricardo Garcia asks, do you follow the hype on Supreme? I believe he's referring to the clothes stuff that I see people spending obscene amounts of money on the regular t-shirts with the little Supreme logo in the middle. No, I don't. I'm not really into that at all. I don't understand it, quite frankly. I've never been somebody who's going to pay like a crazy resale price for something that is, I guess, deemed to be really cool. So for me, no, I'm not into that at all. That's it. No further comment there. Let's see. Adam Dunn, where's your cat? Probably sleeping somewhere. If I hear him come around, I will put him on camera. But right now, I don't believe he's anywhere near here. Golden Gun, do you play any other sports? I play hockey, ice hockey, ball hockey, something I'm really, really into. So, I mean, I don't do it as much during the summertime, but during the wintertime, that's kind of the thing to do in Canada for the most part. So I play my fair share of ice hockey. Other than that, not really anything else. I mean, at the gym, there's a basketball court, so I'll try my hand at basketball. Not that I'm very good at all. But I would say that my main two sports would be soccer, obviously, and then hockey. So that's what I play. Let's see here. Here's a good question, because some people are weird about. Oh, where'd it go? Come on, come back. What the? I believe the username is Cuddy Girl. Maybe I don't know. It's like capitals and lowercase. It says, "Do you like the smell of new cleat sneakers? I personally love it. LOL." No, I can't say that it's like something that I really do. I know a lot of people, they'll get new shoes and the first thing they want to do is smell them. I'll smell them occasionally if I think it's going to be worth my while and perhaps a little bit interesting or unique. For the most part, that's not something that I really do. Should I do that more? Maybe, I don't know. But no, can't say I'm a big shoe smeller, new or old. Here's a question asked by Reptar. That's a good name. You guys remember Reptar? Was that a Rugrats thing? I think it was. I watched that as a kid. What do you do about blisters? I made a video talking about how to avoid blisters on my channel, and I feel like I covered every possible situation. So if you haven't seen that video, I would strongly recommend it. But basically, blisters can be caused by a lot of different things. But the main takeaway is that when you get blisters, 99% of the time it's your fault, because blisters are something that don't happen instantaneously. You start to get that rubbing sensation, you start to feel that little bit of pain, eventually that pain starts to get worse, and then eventually it hurts so much that you realize, oh my gosh, I have a blister. So it's really up to the person wearing whatever it may be. It could be shoes, it can be other types of sports equipment, but blisters, like I said, are something that are to a certain extent self-induced. So if you feel like you're about to get a blister, take the shoes off, change them, stop playing. You can avoid that blister entirely. That's really the best advice. Other than that, it can be poor fitting footwear, it can be plane conditions, it can be weather conditions, it can be all kinds of different variables that, again, I talk about in that video. Again, it's titled How to Avoid Blisters. I think I can leave a card on screen. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But How to Avoid Blisters, it's on my channel. Go check it out. Here's a question from Milton Scherer. What is your favorite Adidas boots? Right now, my favorite Adidas boot, I guess it would be the Pure Chaos. I think Adidas is a brand right now, and I talked about this before, I think they lack a little bit of variety at the moment. The Ace line, I'm not crazy about it. The Pure Control, I've shared my opinion on that many times before. I don't really care too much for the Ace 17.1 Prime Knit, in that the whole point of the shoe is that it has that knitted upper. but there's so very little knitted material on the shoe. And what's there just doesn't really have that soft feel to it. So for me, that's not an attractive thing. The A17.1 leather, they're okay. They'd probably be like a second or third favorite. But again, if I'm picking something right now in terms of main inline models, it would be the Pure Chaos. And if I could pick something older, it'd be the Copa Mundial. So those would be kind of my two favorite boots right now from the Adidas brand. Let's see here. Here's a good question, and I'm not sure that there's a real answer. He said, Jan Peter Klebstall, I think that's how you say it. Why do you think people think the collar on a boot makes them better? That's a great question, and it's really, the answer, I think, is just the power of marketing by these companies. It's something different, obviously. When it first came out, was first unveiled with the Magista Obra 1. People were blown away by it. Some people hated it. Some people loved it. It was a controversial thing, but I think the end result ended up being that it's something that a lot of people wanted to try at least, and that was good for the brand. It was good for Nike, and it's kind of impacted other brands as well in terms of creating shoes that aren't just regular low cuts. And they're making more mid-cut stuff, or at least variations on low-cut that people seem to be very intrigued by at the moment. It's kind of become the norm for top-end models to not just be standard low-cut. So why do I think it makes them think that they're better shoes? It's partially because they're the most expensive ones. When a shoe is the most expensive, people automatically assume that it's the best. And they see some professional players wearing it, whatever it may be. I mean, it's really a mental thing more than anything. It's not objectively going to make you perform better, but if that's something that you really want to have on your shoes and you have it, hey, maybe there's some kind of mental boost to that. I don't really know. But yeah, objectively, there's nothing that's going to make you perform better about a mid-cut shoe. It's just an extension piece that's attached to the rest of the boot. It could very well be low-cut, but it isn't. So again, not really a major answer to that question. So hopefully that, I guess, explains it a little bit. J French 5, would you recommend ankle protectors? That's really a personal preference thing, guys. I personally don't wear any kind of ankle protection just because I find it to be a little bit bulky. But if you feel like it doesn't get in your way and you like to have a little bit of extra protection, by all means, wear ankle protection. Some professional players do it. I know that. Some people don't. It just depends on what you like the feel of and what you're comfortable with. Obviously, more protection is better, I would argue. But if you feel like it's getting in the way, then that's something that you shouldn't necessarily have to wear. Really, ankle protection is not going to prevent any kind of major ankle injury. Like if someone kicks you really hard in the ankle, it's going to hurt with or without ankle protection. All the ankle protection or foam is going to provide in regards to protection is just kind of little cuts and scrapes you wouldn't necessarily get if you have that protection or something else wrapping your ankle aside from just a sock. So that's really all ankle protection is providing, in my opinion. But again, totally personal preference. Ronan Cameron, where do you get your player-worn boots? I don't have any of those, so I'm not sure where you got that from. Here's a D-Step visuals. I assume that's what it's supposed to say. How do I wear boots that are small for me? Quite simply, you don't. Too small, too big. How do you get the shoes to fit you? You don't. That's why they make different sizes, so you can get the right fit. So if you buy new shoes and they're too big or they're too small, return them and get the right size. That's why they make different sizes. See, we're 45 minutes in. We'll call it at an hour, guys. So we'll go for another 15 minutes or so. The Last Clash God. What are some of the best takedown models right now? I think one of the best takedown models that I've been really surprised with is the Hypervenom Felon 3 at the $80 price point. For a thin synthetic or a synthetic takedown model at that price point in general, the quality is pretty exceptional in all honesty. So if you want a synthetic shoe at $80, the Hypervenom Felon 3 would probably be my pick. It's better than pretty much anything else I've ever seen before at that price point. But if you are buying low end, so let's say $80 or less, and you're not buying a shoe that's been previously marked down, generally something with a leather upper is going to have a much softer, more premium feel. Leather will always be soft, where cheap synthetics will always feel cheap and kind of plasticky. So the Hypervenom Felon 3 for a synthetic shoe at that price, really, really solid. The Genio 2 from the Tiempo line from Nike, pretty decent as well. But again, consider what's on sale if you are on a bit of a budget. You don't necessarily have to buy a Takedown model. You can get older colorways, older models, generally at Takedown prices if you do a little bit of research. So don't necessarily settle for the latest Takedown model at full price, because that's generally not going to be your best value. Jacob Larson, what do you think about Umbro? Umbro is one of those brands that I feel like they haven't really adapted all that well to the latest trend so far. We've yet to see anything mid-cut from them, and that's not to say that it's a negative thing, but I think until they do something like that, people have just kind of lost interest in Umbro for the most part. So it's unfortunate to say that kind of thing, but I think in order to get attention as a brand, especially if you're one of the smaller ones now, you have to do something a little bit more crazy, something a little bit more wild to get people's attention. Puma tried that a little bit with the Evo Touch, I would say, and to a certain extent they did something pretty unique with the Evo Power Vigor as well. But I think that's what they need to do. They need to go for something a little bit outrageous. They have good stuff for the most part, but I wouldn't say that's anything exceptional as of right now. Cool ideas, but nothing that I think is blowing people's mind. Papa E5, when are you posting a Vigor 1 playtest video? That's going to happen. Again, just kind of waiting on slightly better weather and slightly better playing conditions. So that will be coming. Going to be recording that relatively soon. Did you go to college? That's asked by Brian Zuniga. No, I didn't. I went for 1 semester of human kinetics, but didn't really like it and haven't gone back since. Kind of focused on other things. Okay, a lot of people. Allison McCauley, relationship status. Single at the moment. Chris Perdomo, are you married? No. No, I'm not. Alex Cotterell, is it hard to get glitches? So a lot of people have been asking, how do you get the Adidas glitch? Obviously, it's something that's sold right now exclusively in London, England. And if you're outside of London, really the only way to get it is to go on eBay or any kind of place where they're reselling them, because people in London are buying them and then trying to resell them for more money. So you likely have to pay over retail to get a pair of glitches, but if you absolutely must have those shoes, which I personally don't think they're anything too special, the Pure Chaos is essentially the same boot in a lighter, better fitting package. But again, if you really need glitches, go on eBay. You can buy them from somebody reselling them, but you will pay over the regular retail price. I don't know why I keep making those like half whistle sounds. I apologize. Griffin, okay, here's a good one. Griffin Huff, what is your favorite hockey brand? Probably Warrior. I think Warrior makes pretty cool stuff. They were in soccer not too long ago. Warrior was always owned by New Balance, so when they launched in soccer, they tried to create something with the Warrior brand instead of doing New Balance. But then when they decided that they didn't want to try and pursue promoting Warrior footwear, they already had an established footwear brand in the form of New Balance. They scrapped Warrior and changed them to New Balance. So the current New Balance stuff probably would have been branded as Warrior if they never actually made that switch. They've always been the same company. Ivan Bracamontes? I don't know how you say that. Best apparel for training, Nike, Adidas, etc. Honestly, I'm not super picky with that kind of thing. I try to highlight a decent amount. I feel like I highlight a decent amount of apparel in the What's in My Soccer Bag series on my channel. Nike and Adidas tends to be what I end up going with the most, just because it's the most readily available. They have the most amount of variety for the most part as well. and it certainly is the most popular. But Under Armour, I'm wearing an Under Armour shirt right now. They make good stuff. Puma makes really good quality stuff. It's really just down to quality and the materials and how stuff fits you. But for the most part, I'm not super picky when it comes to that kind of thing. Try to change it up for the most part. So no strong preference there. It's just nice materials, I would say, is probably the big thing for me. I don't know why so many hockey questions. Jan Peter Klevstol, favorite hockey team? Detroit Red Wings. I lived across the border from Detroit for basically the majority of my life, so Detroit Red Wings, my favorite team. Here's a good question. Penguin with a gun. If you could only buy boots from one brand, who would it be? There's two brands that come to mind with this question. One being Nike. And the reason why I say Nike is just because they offer so much variety within the brand. And for me, variety is a big thing. Just because I think if you're a boot enthusiast, even if you know you like a certain style of shoe, like for me, I really like the Legend 6. And if I wasn't doing this and I didn't have access to all that stuff, I definitely could tell you that I would have a pair of Legend 6s. But at the same time, when shoes like the Ober 2 and the Hypervenom Phantom 3 comes out, I'm still going to want them. I'm still going to want to try them. I'm still an enthusiast. I'm still curious about what that brand or what those shoes are going to feel like. So Nike, because of the fact that they offer so much variety, if I can only buy from one brand, Nike would be one. And I think the other one would be Mizuno, actually, just because, again, they have some really interesting models within their line, a good amount of variety. Everything offers something a little bit different, and the quality is absolutely exceptional. So Mizuno as kind of the more underrated pick, and Nike as, I guess, the more obvious pick. And this is just based on what's being produced right now. That answer could change in a year from now when obviously different stuff is available. Okay, Rachel Christopher keeps asking your favorite sneakers. What are your favorite sneakers? I think I answered this before. I wear a lot of Air Max 1s. I wear, let's say, Adidas NMDs. I wear those pretty frequently. There was a time where I was wearing a lot of Nike Roshe runs, more specifically the Flyknit models. I like my Nike Air Max shoes in general for casual wear. I probably wear those a lot. The Air Jordan 1s, I'm a big fan of those. I have a good amount of variety as far as sneakers are concerned, so I'm not really a diehard of one specific sneaker. I just have so many that I try to wear as many as I can, so I'm not necessarily wearing the same ones all the time, but yeah, I'm a sneaker enthusiast in general. There's lots and lots of sneakers that I really like to wear. Christopher Lopez. Do you know anyone who's named Chris? You. I know Christopher Lopez, apparently, so that was a bad joke. I apologize for that one. But we'll leave it in there, whatever. Trying to find a good question, guys. There's a lot of questions that are just, I guess, kind of slightly boring, so I'm trying not to answer. I'm trying to pick some interesting ones. Here's a good one. Stefan Kelmar21 asked, why aren't AG boots popular? I think the main reason why they're not the most popular thing in the world is partially down to the fact that a lot of people just don't want to buy something different. They just, firm ground's what's readily available for the most part, especially if you go to a soccer store. You're just not going to find a lot of AG boots available because those are products that the stores are less likely to sell. And you can see a lot of online stores not necessarily having all that much AG shoes available in regards to stock. And the norm is that most people just wear firm ground shoes on artificial grass. So because let's say 10 out of 11 players on your team are wearing firm ground shoes, why should you not wear firm ground shoes as well, even though you guys all play on artificial grass? So I think it's just because it hasn't really become the norm yet. Will that change in the future? I don't really know. I don't personally think that it will, but it definitely is the better option if you do regularly play on artificial fields, is to go for an AG stud pattern. Angus Buckland, do you think there is a future for laceless boots? As long as they stay as popular as they are right now, yes, there definitely is a future for it. I would love to see some progression. I still don't think that going laceless, regardless of the design, is going to be the best way of doing things in terms of making a shoe fit as good as it possibly can. Because no matter what the laceless system is, you're still not going to have adjustability, which is a big thing when it comes to getting the proper fit. If you want the shoe to wrap your foot as closely as possible, it has to have some kind of adjustment. You got to be able to make it tighter. You got to be able to make it looser, ideally section by section, not just in one single spot. So with laceless, again, you lose out on that adjustability, and then you're always going to have more layers and stiffer materials in order to secure your foot because you don't have laces. So yeah, laceless shoes will continue for sure, but I don't necessarily see them getting better. I just see them sticking around as long as they stay popular. Let's see here. Papa E5, who is the greatest player of all time in your opinion? That's a tough one. That's a tough question. I mean, I, I'm gonna be. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the players that people say are the greatest ever, Maradona, Pele. These are players that I've seen the clips on YouTube, but I wasn't like actively. I mean, I wasn't even alive when they were kind of in their prime, and it wasn't something that I got to witness when it was happening live. So I think Ronaldo and Messi right now. It's hard to say that as they're playing, they're the greatest players ever, or one is the greatest player ever. But I think come the end of their careers, one of them probably will be considered the greatest ever, if not both of them together. So I think Messi and Ronaldo, pretty safe to say that they are going to go down as two of the greatest players of all time. So that's probably what my answer would be. It's just like in basketball. A lot of people say Michael Jordan, but if you didn't grow up watching Michael Jordan, you might say somebody like LeBron James just because you've been able to watch his career more. So I think it's more of a generational question rather than a question that has a definitive answer. But just based on how old I am and what I've been able to witness throughout my life, I'd say probably Ronaldo and Messi when everything is said and done. So we got another couple minutes, guys. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can here. Thank you so much for those of you guys that have stuck around. Again, I like doing this kind of thing. So, Joseph Maltby Smith, what's the difference between anti-clog and soft ground? So basically, it's the same stud pattern, whether you go for a regular soft ground pro or an anti-clog soft ground stud pattern from Nike. The difference is going to be the sole plate. So the anti-clog sole plate is a special material, mainly that top layer, that doesn't allow mud to stick to the bottom, basically. Whereas on a regular soft ground stud sole plate, it's going to stick, it's going to get caught on the bottom of the shoe and weigh you down and also kind of limit the amount of stud length that you're going to have, which is going to affect traction as well. The regular soft ground sole plates are going to be a little bit lighter in comparison to the anti-clog ones, so that's definitely worth noting. But that is the main difference, is that they're different sole plates, both in terms of the weight as well as the finish. The anti-clog one has that non-slip application to it. So, sorry, not the non-slip, the mud slick application. I'm not sure exactly what you want to call it, but mud does not stick to the bottom of that sole plate where it will with the regular soft ground one. But again, there are kind of pros and cons to each of them, if you will, and that the anti-clog one will generally weigh a little bit more than the standard variation. You would think that they would try to push that technology and only make one version, probably just anti-clog, but for whatever reason they don't. So that's the answer to that one. Mr. Salty, ugliest boot. I mean, I guess you could make a pretty good argument for the Messi 15.1. That was, I think, a pretty questionable shoe. I don't think they're terrible looking, but for a guy like Messi as his signature model, you think they would have produced something a lot better looking. That's probably the most recent really ugly shoe that comes to mind. The Diadora Cambio, I think, was a pretty awful looking shoe. I know a lot of people didn't like the look of the Opus 2 as well, the original Opus 2, and I can see why that is. But I would say right now, in terms of recent memory, the Messi 15.1, pretty awful looking shoe in almost every single colorway. So that would be my answer to that. Here's a good question. Anthony Alfieri asked, what were your original goals for YouTube when you made your first video? Honestly, I don't know. When I started doing YouTube, that was something that wasn't even the first thing that I did. I did my website first, and I was doing written reviews prior to actually making any kind of videos. If you go to my channel and you go to the videos and you sort oldest to newest, you can see some of the original videos. I didn't even talk. It was just me kind of showing the shoes on camera, an unboxing video, if you will, which going back 5-6 years, that was a really big thing. And I was one of the first people to do that for soccer equipment. So that was the idea of why I did it in the first place. I never necessarily intended on YouTube being, I guess, my biggest audience. I just kind of wanted to do the written review thing. But it obviously turned into something that didn't gain popularity at any kind of extreme rate. It took years and years and years to develop. But that was kind of my initial goal, is that I started doing it just because I thought it was a cool add-on to the written reviews. And obviously it turned into much more. So I didn't have any kind of goal of getting 1 million subscribers, because that wasn't even a thing at the time when I started. But obviously social media has changed a lot in the last 5 years, including YouTube. So goals may be a little bit different now, but at the time it was something that, again, I did it as kind of an added informational element versus, oh, this is going to be an entertainment thing. So I've got one more question. We're an hour into this, guys, so I'm going to do one more question, and then we are going to end it. So try to answer a good one. Here's a good one. Mr. Salty again. Wow, he's asking a lot of good questions today. How many boots do you have in your collection? I'm going to make a video on that, actually. So rough estimation, probably 600 or 700 shoes I have in my, I don't want to say collection, but in terms of shoes that I have right now down in the SR4U boot room, it's probably 600 or 700 pairs if I had to guess. In terms of shoes that I would say are collector's items, probably roughly 150 of those. But I will be making a video on that. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it, but it is something that will be happening relatively soon. So look out for that on the channel. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for sticking around to this live stream. I appreciate you guys that are watching and leaving your questions down below. Let me know down below in the comments once this goes live what you guys would like to see as far as live events are concerned. Do you like the Q&As? If so, what day is a good day to do these Q&A videos? What time is a good time to do them? Because this is something that I personally don't mind doing. If I do it 2 or 3 times a week, if I do it once a week, it doesn't really matter to me. It just depends on how much you guys want to see this. Because this is something that I enjoy doing. I spend a lot of time every day answering YouTube questions. This is kind of the same thing, just live and without me typing it into a keyboard. So again, leave your feedback down below in the comments once this video does go live. I appreciate your support, like I said at the start of the video. Thank you so much. Leave a like if you enjoyed the live stream and want to see more of it. And that's pretty much it, guys. We'll see you in the next video.